Zach Lavine's workout video has been making his way around social media, and that's a good thing for him and the Chicago Bulls. So, on today's episode, I want to talk about the Chicago Bulls' plan to rebuild Zach Lavine's trade value so we can make sure that we get it done. Y'all know we're going to talk about it and break it down, but you gotta hear the music first. Cognac, gang. Shy Boys Podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down on today's daily episode. The support from you all have been tremendous, so thank y'all very, very much. And if you're tuned in with me, just getting started, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well. Now let's get right into it. Now, we know everything with the Chicago Bulls is just got to continue to be a conversation. And one of those conversations that's going to continuously come up as we inch closer and closer to the NBA season getting ready to start here in a couple months. We know that the conversation surrounding Zach Lavine is only going to get louder. And I'm pretty much here saying that the Chicago Bulls need to get ahead of this so they can help themselves and Zach Lavine successfully decide on what the future is for them and Zach Lavine. Now, I know there's a lot of confusion that's being thrown out there when you talk about Zach Lavine and his impact and how him and possibly Nikola Vucevic could potentially have some type of future with the Chicago Bulls. I think that the Chicago Bulls want to end this with Zach Lavine, and I honestly feel that Zach Lavine wants to end this with the Chicago Bulls. Now, if we remember from that article that came out from Jamal Collier from ESPN, I believe a week or two ago, or sometime between that timeline, one of those quotes that came out during that article, Jamal Collier quoted Mark Eversley pretty much saying that we looking to go younger. We looking to make moves. It's not going to be the same thing as it once was, this past year and years prior. In that quote, Mark Eversley, when it said the difference is we're much younger, not that it's not about Zach or Vucevic anymore, but we're giving these young guys an opportunity to see how much they can grow, end quote. That quote lets me know that these guys are not going to sit here and build out this team around Zach Lavine and Nikola Vucevic anymore. So the Chicago Bulls need to get on their stuff and ensure that by the time that they want to execute a trade, they have to build up the trade market, the trade value for Zach Lavine. We know that's going to have to start with Zach Lavine himself, but then that's with the Bulls front office as well, coming together, sitting down and making a decision and mapping out a plan so both sides can be satisfied. Now, it was reported and it came out by Joe Cowley that right now, the latest is still there's not much of a market for Zach Lavine. Trust me, Joe Cowley's gonna let us all know once a week that the market is not there for Zach Lavine. But he did mention something that I really feel like was key or is key to get this job done, whether we saying Zach is going to be here for the short term or the long term, because that obviously that could still be an option. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you can mend relationships and get it all, fixed and you can move on. But Joe Cowley said Billy Donovan is not above playing the role of diplomat. The Bulls coach again proved that jumping on a plane earlier this month to do his annual offseason check-ins with this player. And according to a source coming out of his time with disgruntled guard Zach Lavine, with pieces of the once burnt bridge actually repaired. So these guys seem like they repaired a bridge. And these are the things that the Chicago Bulls really should be getting behind. And that's one of my keys to how you can either mend this relationship for yourself and this organization or mend the relationship well enough to help Zach Lavine end up on another team. And the problem that I have with this article right here is that the Chicago Bulls, you need to be helping push this type of thing. Okay, why? Because now this disgruntled star in Zach Lavine has mended a bridge with his coach. So now that's going to be, okay, one of those fillers that you put out in the press and put out in the NBA world to say, hey, Okay, we can see Zach Lavine and them starting to work things out. He's not as disgruntled as we seeing. So now this is the eye catcher. It started to, it probably doesn't fully grasp all the eyes that it needs to grab. But if you help push this out a little bit more, you start to grab a little bit of attention. And the reason how you're going to start to grab an attention is Chicago Bulls. What are y'all doing? You did not post anything about Zach Lavine last run, that the clips that he posted on social media, it's nowhere to be found on Chicago Bulls Twitter. What are we doing? What? This is why we get on the Bulls' ass. This is why we come to terms and call out the Chicago Bulls for their lack of execution when it comes to certain things, their lack of execution when it comes to trades, the lack of execution when it comes to signings, and the lack of execution right now to try to repair Zach Lavine's trade value. What are y'all doing? So the point is that these guys have to have a plan, and you cannot screw this up. The first thing I'm looking at is that these guys have to come in, sit down as grown men, and all your representatives, whoever that may be, talk down and set an internal goal. This internal goal is going to include this, is going to have these parameters. We're going to need you to say this. We're going to say this. We're going to make sure our reporters who report on the, have something good to push out in the media. So you're going to flood social media. And back to the original point just a few seconds ago, this is where the Bulls are screwing up. The social media aspect. The last few articles that we've heard that have been placed or like highly marketed from like a Bulls source other than Joe Cowley, people typically follow KC Johnson, or, we look around and, we see things more often than not from KC Johnson than a Joe Cowley, maybe, because a lot of Bulls fans might be turned off to him because he seems like, he has some harsh takes on the Bulls, and some of them you can understand because the Bulls have been down bad. But back to the topic. But the Bulls need to flood the social media. And when Zach Lavine posts a clip of him working out, you share that on your social media page, Chicago Bulls. You say Zach putting in that work, getting healthy for a big season as a title or something on there to grab some more attentions, on top of the article that Joe Cowley said that Chicago Bulls, Zach Lavine, and Billy Donovan mended a burnt bridge. Do you see how those two things could start to grab more eyes? But that wouldn't be the end all be all. Let's talk about how you lead up into training camp. You lead up into training camp, and then the first day, you should have something written on paper, on press. If Zach Lavine walks in there healthy, you release the article said that Zach Lavine is 100% healthy. So you have to be strategically planning and building up the trade value of Zach Lavine. It's going to be an around-the-clock effort. No more stupid, idiot, anonymous team sources saying dumb stuff. I know I said that was going to be the last time a few days ago, but I had to say it again. I'm sorry, y'all. And no more just unnecessary leaks of bad behavior unless you like, and that's the thing. A lot of people get it twisted. You don't have to leak everything that goes on in your locker room. Trust me, these billionaires and these guys that's in charge, they have their resources or their sources that they speak to directly. You know what I'm saying? And be like, okay, go ahead and drop that. Remember a few weeks ago when we had KC Johnson and a few other beat writers come out and say, yeah, we should have a complete full article of our conversation with the Bulls front office, AK. They have that type of power to release certain things into these, into the airways or around social media. So make sure you start and get control of that. Get control of the leaks. If anything that leaks from a team source that has not been approved, fireable offense, literally, because you only want this thing to all be positive vibes until you get the job done. Literally. Excuse me. Until you get the job done. Only positive vibes, ladies and gentlemen. The Bulls, we've seen them mishandle so many situations within the last few years. Like, it's hard to trust that they're going to do it. It's hard to believe that they're going to actually execute this thing the right way. But at some point, bro, You cannot keep doing the same thing, expecting the same results. It's insanity, y'all. Y'all already know that. So the Chicago Bulls, you get the ball is in your court alongside Zach Lavine. Come to terms on what y'all gonna do. Come up with the plan. Flood social media. Don't let too many days go by without a Zach Lavine clip working out or something appearing on social media, and you throw up a little more other fillers up in there on what your other players are doing so you won't make it seem too obvious. And then when Joe Cowley come out with the harsh take, or somebody come out with the harsh take, you send in a rebuttal for the positive take on what's going on with Zach Lavine. If you want to build the trade value well enough to make sure that he is going to be able to bring in the trade that you feel like is feasible for the organization. But it's going to take two sides. It's going to take all the guys involved, and that's what it really comes down to. I'm hoping they understand what's at hand for them right now. I'm really am. I'm trying to hope that they understand what's right in front of them right now, because if you want this to go your way, you got to go out and you know what I'm saying, walk hand in hand just for a little bit until you're able to let him run off into the wild on his own. So that's that. But that's it for me, ladies and gentlemen. You let me know how you all feeling about what was discussed today. Make sure you drop your comments down below. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Thanks for those callers this past weekend that called in and left their voicemails to be a part of our mailbag episodes. We encourage anybody that wants to get on and be a part of our mailbag episodes to call in, state your name, leave your take on anything Chicago Bulls, and you will end up on one of our mailbag episodes for the weekend. The number to do so is 773-242-9219. Thank y'all so much, Bulls Nation. Always see red, and you already know I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure.
Cognac. Gang.